Ladies, have you ever wondered why some women command respect effortlessly, while others struggle to be taken seriously? It's not about looks, status, or even intelligence. It's about two unshakable rules that separate the women who are admired from the ones who are overlooked. And today, I'm going to reveal exactly what they are. You know, I talk to so many women who ask me, why doesn't he respect me? And here's what I've realized most of the time. It's not because he's a bad guy. It's because she hasn't shown him how. Respect isn't something you negotiate for in the moment. It's not something you demand when he's already crossed the line. Respect is something you command long before that moment ever comes. By the way you carry yourself, by the way you respond, by the way you refuse to accept anything less than you deserve. Let me tell you a story. A woman once told me about a guy she was dating who would cancel plans last minute, text her sporadically, and keep her guessing. She kept letting it slide because she didn't want to seem difficult. But here's the thing, every time she allowed that behavior, she was silently telling him, "This is how I expect to be treated." And guess what? He kept doing it. Then one day she finally had enough. The next time he tried to cancel last minute, she didn't beg or get emotional. She simply said, "You know what? I'm someone who values my time, and I expect the same in return. If that's not something you can do, then this isn't going to work." And something crazy happened. He didn't argue, he didn't get defensive, he apologized, and from that moment on, he started showing up differently. Now, here's what most women misunderstand. They think setting boundaries is about being harsh or rigid. But it's not. It's about having such a deep respect for yourself that you refuse to let anyone else disrespect you. And when you do that, something powerful happens. You filter out the men who aren't willing to meet your standards, and you invite in the ones who want to rise to them. Because here's the truth, men don't respect women who let them get away with everything. They respect women who expect better. And that doesn't mean you have to be cold or unapproachable. It just means you have a line, and when someone crosses it, you don't make excuses for them. You don't say, "Well, maybe he didn't mean it." You say, "I know what I deserve, and this isn't it." And that's where most women hesitate. They worry, what if he leaves? But let me ask you this. If a man leaves because you refuse to let him disrespect you, is that really a loss? Or is it the fastest way to find the man who won't? Self-respect isn't about being perfect. It's about being unshakable in your worth. It's about knowing that no amount of potential, no chemistry, no attraction is worth sacrificing the way you should be treated. And when you embody that, that's when men don't just like you, they admire you. Because a woman who respects herself doesn't just teach a man how to treat her, she inspires him to be better. You ever notice how the most magnetic women aren't the ones constantly trying to prove their worth, but the ones who are just living it? There's something undeniably attractive about a woman who's got her own thing going on. Not because she's trying to impress anyone, but because she's too busy being impressed by her own life. That's the power of independence, and it's the second rule men deeply respect. Now, let's be clear. I'm not talking about the kind of independence that means you don't need anyone. That's not the goal. The goal is to reach a place where you choose people, not because you're empty without them, but because you're already full, and they just make life even better. Think about it like this. Imagine two women. The first one centers her entire world around a man. She's always available, always rearranging her schedule for him, always waiting for him to text back. The second woman, she's got passions, friends, ambitions. She's living a life that excites her with or without him. Now, which one do you think he's going to respect more? It's not even a competition. Because here's the thing, men don't fall in love with women who need them. They fall in love with women who inspire them, and nothing inspires a man more than a woman who's got her own fire, her own drive, her own sense of purpose. It's not about playing hard to get, it's about being hard to forget. I remember a woman telling me about how she used to drop everything when a guy she liked finally texted her back. She'd cancel plans with friends, stay up late waiting for his calls, rearrange her whole week just to see him. And guess what? He never seemed that invested. Then one day, she decided to start saying no. Not to punish him, but because she realized something. She was treating his time like it was gold, and hers like it was disposable. So the next time he asked her out last minute, she said, "I'd love to, but I've already got plans," and you know what happened. He didn't disappear, he didn't get mad, he adjusted. Suddenly, he was the one asking her in advance, the one making sure he got on her calendar. Because when he saw she had a life outside of him, he realized if he wanted to be a part of it, he had to step up. That's the magic of independence. It's not about playing games. It's about having so much going for you that a man knows if he doesn't bring something real to the table, you're not going to stick around out of desperation. You'll just keep living your amazing life, and that's where real respect comes from. Not from begging for his attention, but from being so fulfilled on your own that his attention is just a bonus. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but what if he thinks I don't care enough? Here's the truth. Men don't confuse independence with indifference. They can tell the difference between a woman who's busy and a woman who's avoidant. The goal isn't to act like you don't care. It's to show that your happiness doesn't depend on him. Because here's the secret. The more you need him, the less he'll want to be needed. But the more you choose him, the more he'll want to be chosen. So ask yourself, are you living a life that excites you, with or without a man in it? Are you pursuing things that light you up, building friendships that fulfill you, chasing dreams that scare you? Because that's the kind of energy that doesn't just attract men, it captivates them. And when a man sees that you're not waiting around for him to complete you, that you're already whole on your own, that's when he'll do more than just want you. He'll respect you. So stop worrying about being the woman he needs. Start being the woman he's lucky to have. Let me tell you something about emotional composure that most people never realize. It's not about suppressing what you feel. It's about controlling how you express it. Because in those heated moments when emotions run high, that's when you have the greatest opportunity to either gain a man's deepest respect or lose it completely. Picture this. A woman gets a text from a guy she's been seeing that rubs her the wrong way. Her first instinct, fire back an angry response, maybe throw in a little sarcasm, make him feel what she's feeling right that second. And you know what happens next? Suddenly, she's not the one who was wronged anymore, she's the crazy one. The emotional one, the one who overreacted. Now imagine another woman in that exact same situation. She reads the same text, feels the same sting, but instead of reacting immediately, she puts her phone down. She takes a walk. She lets that first wave of emotion pass, and when she does respond, it's measured. It's thoughtful, it's powerful, because now she's not just speaking from emotion, she's speaking from strategy. That's the difference between reacting and responding. One gives away your power, the other commands respect. Here's what most women don't understand. Men don't respect emotional outbursts because they see them as a loss of control. And nothing makes a man pull away faster than feeling like he's dealing with someone unpredictable. But when you maintain your composure, when you show that no matter what he says or does, you won't be rattled, that's when he starts to see you differently. That's when he realizes he can't just push your buttons to get a reaction. That's when he understands he's dealing with a woman who's operating on a whole other level. I remember working with a woman who was dating this guy who would constantly test her boundaries. He'd say little digs, cancel plans, do all these things designed to get a rise out of her, and for months she'd take the bait every time. Until one day, she decided to try something different. The next time he made one of his little comments, instead of snapping back, she just smiled, didn't engage, changed the subject, and you know what happened? He stopped. Because when he realized his usual tactics weren't working anymore, he had to change his approach. That's the power of emotional composure. It's not about being cold or unfeeling. It's about being so secure in yourself that you don't need to prove anything in the heat of the moment. It's about understanding that sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but if I don't show him how upset I am, how will he know he crossed a line? Here's the truth. Men don't learn from emotional outbursts. They learn from consistent consequences. It's not about making a scene in the moment. It's about calmly removing your attention when your boundaries are violated. That's what actually creates change. Because here's what happens when you master your emotions. You stop giving men the satisfaction of seeing you rattled. You stop letting them dictate the terms of engagement, and most importantly, you start filtering out the men who want drama from the men who are ready for something real. So the next time you feel that surge of emotion rising up, ask yourself one question. Is reacting right now going to get me what I truly want? Because the woman who can pause before responding isn't just protecting her dignity, she's commanding respect on a whole other level. Let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. How often do you find yourself lowering your standards just to keep a man interested? Be honest, because here's what I've learned after years of working with thousands of women. The ones who command the deepest respect aren't the ones with the longest lists of demands. They're the ones who embody their standards so completely that they don't need to announce them. There's a crucial difference between having high standards and being demanding. One comes from a place of quiet confidence, the other from insecurity disguised as strength, and men can smell the difference a mile away. I want you to imagine two women at a restaurant. The first one snaps at the waiter, complains about everything, makes a big show of sending her food back twice. The second, she's warm, she's kind, but when something isn't right, she simply says, "I'm sorry, this isn't what I ordered," with calm expectation that it will be made right. Now tell me which one commands more respect. That's the art of high standards. It's not about how loudly you complain. It's about how naturally you expect better, because here's the truth. Standards aren't something you enforce, they're something you embody. I remember a client who kept dating men who wouldn't commit. She'd ask me, why don't they respect me enough to make it official? So I asked her, what do you do when they don't? And she admitted she stuck around, she made excuses, she waited. And in doing so, she taught every one of those men the same lesson, that she was willing to accept less than she deserved. Then something changed. She stopped having the talk about commitment. Instead, she started behaving like a woman who expected it. When a guy she'd been seeing for months joked about keeping things casual, she didn't argue. She simply said, "That's not what I'm looking for," and walked away. And guess what happened next? He came back, not because she gave him an ultimatum, but because she showed him exactly what kind of woman he stood to lose. That's the power of embodied standards. When you don't just say what you want, but live as if you deserve it, something magical happens. The wrong men filter themselves out, and the right ones step up. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but if I set my standards too high, won't I end up alone? Here's what I want you to understand. High standards aren't about creating a checklist of superficial requirements. They're about recognizing your non-negotiables and having the courage to walk away when they're not being met. Because the temporary discomfort of being alone will always be better than the long-term pain of being with someone who makes you feel lonely. Think about the women you admire most, the ones who seem to have men treating them exceptionally well. I'll bet you anything it's not because they're constantly reminding those men how to behave. It's because they carry themselves with such inherent self-worth that treating them well becomes the only option. So here's your challenge. Stop announcing your standards and start living them. Stop telling men how you expect to be treated and show them through what you accept. Because when you do that, you won't need to demand respect, you'll simply receive it. The most powerful statement you can make isn't with your words, it's with your actions. It's saying no to what doesn't serve you so you can say yes to what does. It's understanding that every time you tolerate less than you deserve, you're not just settling, you're teaching men exactly how much they can get away with. Let me share something counterintuitive about human nature that most people get completely wrong. The fastest way to kill attraction isn't by being unlikable, it's by being too available. Think about it. When was the last time you felt truly captivated by someone who revealed everything about themselves immediately? When did you last feel obsessed with someone who was always right there, exactly when you wanted them, with no space to wonder about them? That's the power of mystery, and it's the fifth rule men deeply respect. Now, I'm not talking about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. Real mystery isn't about deception, it's about discernment. It's understanding that not every thought needs to be shared, not every emotion needs to be explained, and not every moment needs to be documented for his consumption. Picture two women on first dates. The first one spends 3 hours trauma, dumping about her ex, oversharing her insecurities, and explaining her entire life story before the appetizers arrive. The second, she shares just enough to intrigue him, leaves room for his curiosity, and maintains an air of "I'm fascinating, but you'll have to earn the full story." Which one do you think he's still thinking about 3 days later? Here's what most women don't realize. Mystery isn't about withholding. It's about having so much going on in your life that no man could possibly consume all of you at once. It's the difference between being an open book, read once, then set aside, and being a captivating series that keeps him eagerly awaiting the next installment. I remember working with a woman who couldn't understand why her relationships always fizzled after the first few months. When we looked closer, we realized she was making a classic mistake. She'd become an emotional open house the moment she liked someone. All her past hurts, current anxieties, future dreams, laid bare immediately. And while vulnerability is beautiful, timing is everything. By sharing everything too soon, she left no room for discovery, and without discovery, there's no anticipation. Without anticipation, there's no lasting attraction, so we tried an experiment. On her next date, she shared just one intriguing story about herself, then pivoted the conversation back to him. When he asked personal questions, she answered honestly, but didn't elaborate unnecessarily, and something remarkable happened. He leaned in. Literally, he started asking more questions, trying to uncover more about her, because here's the psychological truth. People value what they have to work to understand. This applies long after the first date, too. The woman who texts back paragraphs immediately every time. She teaches him he doesn't need to wonder about her. The woman who occasionally lets a text sit while she lives her life. She becomes someone he thinks about, not because she's playing hard to get, but because she's genuinely got things to do. Now, some might say, but shouldn't relationships be about complete openness? Of course, in time. But respect isn't built through instant intimacy. It's built through gradually revealed depth. Think about how we treat rare things versus common ones. We're careful with what's precious, casual with what's abundant. When you make yourself too available, with your time, your attention, your history, you're accidentally making yourself common in his mind. The art of mystery is really the art of pacing. It's understanding that your past should be revealed in layers, not all at once. Your emotions should be shared when earned, not assumed. Your time should be given when appreciated, not expected. Because here's what happens when you master this. You become someone he works to understand, rather than someone he takes for granted. You create space for him to wonder about you, to imagine about you, to invest in knowing you. And that investment, that's where real respect is born. So ask yourself today, are you leaving room for his curiosity? Are you maintaining enough of your own separate world that he has something to discover? Are you giving him the gift of missing you occasionally? Remember, the sun is admired every morning precisely because it was absent the night before. Be that sun. There's a universal truth about relationships that most people learn too late. You don't get the respect you ask for, you get the respect you accept. Think about that for a second. Every time you let a man cancel plans last minute without consequence, every time you laugh off a disrespectful comment to keep the peace, every time you make excuses for his lack of effort, you're not just letting him off the hook. You're teaching him exactly how much or how little he needs to do to keep you around. And men, they're fast learners. Here's the uncomfortable reality. Men don't respect women based on what they say they deserve. They respect women based on what those women actually tolerate. I remember a woman telling me about a guy she was dating who would disappear for days, then reappear with some half-hearted excuse. She'd get upset, he'd apologize, and the cycle would repeat. She kept thinking, if I just explain how much this hurts me, he'll change. But he didn't. Because here's the thing, words don't change behavior, consequences do. Then one day she stopped explaining. The next time he vanished for a week and texted, "Hey, sorry, been busy." She didn't respond. Not out of spite, but because she finally realized, when you keep accepting crumbs, you teach men they don't need to offer the whole meal. And you know what happened. He came back differently. Suddenly, he was consistent. Suddenly, he was making plans in advance. Suddenly, he was the one double texting. Not because she gave him an ultimatum, but because she finally gave him something far more powerful. A consequence. This is the ultimate truth about respect. It's reciprocal. The way you treat yourself sets the standard for how others will treat you. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but if I walk away, what if he doesn't come back? And to that, I'd say, good. Because if a man only steps up when he risks losing you, then he never truly valued you in the first place. He just valued the convenience of having you around. The women who command the deepest respect aren't the ones who beg for it. They're the ones who demonstrate it first in how they treat themselves. They don't chase after men who only give them breadcrumbs. They walk away, knowing their time is better spent on someone who brings the whole feast. They don't plead for basic decency. They expect it, and if it's not given, they don't stick around to negotiate. They don't shrink themselves to make a man feel bigger. They stand tall in their worth and let him rise to meet them. Because here's the secret. Respect isn't something you negotiate in the moment. It's something you cultivate over time by what you allow. Every interaction is a lesson. Every boundary you enforce or don't enforce teaches him how to treat you. And the moment you decide to stop accepting less than you deserve, that's the moment the right men start showing up differently. So ask yourself today, what have I been tolerating that a woman who truly respected herself wouldn't? And then stop tolerating it, because the right man won't just respect you for your boundaries. He'll thank you for them. So here's the truth, ladies. Respect isn't something you beg for, it's something you command. When you live by these two rules, you don't just ask for respect, you inspire it. You become the woman a man doesn't just want, but the woman he's afraid to lose. Because at the end of the day, the right man won't just respect you for these rules, he'll thank you for them. Now, go out there and own it.